10 days. That's the timeline U.S. President Donald Trump just gave the world. Deal with Iran or face military action. But here's the twist. Iran isn't backing down. And inside the country, protests are exploding again. So what's really happening? Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, went on Fox News and said something revealing. Trump isn't frustrated, he's curious. Curious why Iran hasn't capitulated. Think about that word. Capitulated. Surrendered. Why hasn't Iran folded when the U.S. has moved massive naval power into the region? That's the pressure point. And it's building. Retention trigger. But wait until you hear what's floating toward the Middle East right now. The U.S. has dramatically increased its presence near Iran. The world's largest warship, the USS Gerald R. Ford, appears to be heading toward the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier is already deployed. Destroyers, combat ships, fighter jets. This isn't symbolic. This is leverage. Trump's message seems clear. Make a deal or face consequences. Retention trigger. But here's where it gets interesting, because behind the scenes, negotiations are still happening. U.S. and Iranian officials held indirect talks in Geneva on 17th February. The mediator? Oman. Specifically, Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi. Both sides said progress was made. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says there's still a chance for a win-win deal. He even claims Iran is preparing a draft agreement. So pause for a second. If talks are progressing, why is the U.S. sending warships? And why is Trump giving a 10-day warning? Open loop. Is this negotiation or brinkmanship? At the heart of this, Iran's nuclear program. The U.S. and European allies believe Iran may be moving toward building a nuclear weapon. Iran denies it. They insist their program is peaceful. But this isn't new. For years, tension has simmered. What's different now is the pressure level. Trump is publicly asking, if you don't want a weapon, why not prove it? That's the standoff. And it's happening while something even more explosive is unfolding inside Iran itself. Retention trigger. Because while governments negotiate, the streets are boiling. Over the weekend, anti-government protests erupted across multiple universities. The most dramatic scenes? At Sharif University of Technology in Tehran. Verified footage shows students marching, clashing with pro-government supporters. In one video, protesters raised the Lion and Sun flag, a symbol of Iran before the 1979 revolution, and they chanted, Javid Shah, long live the king. That's not just protest, that's open defiance of the Islamic Republic. At the same time, counter-protesters burned U.S. and Israeli flags. This isn't just political tension, it's internal fracture. Retention trigger. And the numbers coming out of Iran are staggering. The U.S.-based human rights activists news agency says over 7,000 people were killed in last month's crackdown, including children. Iranian authorities claim around 3,100 died, mostly security personnel and bystanders. That's a massive discrepancy. And here's why it matters. When a country faces internal unrest and external pressure at the same time, leaders become unpredictable. Open loop. So is this military buildup about nuclear weapons, or is it about a regime under pressure? Trump said we'll know over the next 10 days whether there's a deal or military action. 10 days is short in diplomacy. Very short. And when aircraft carriers move, they don't do it for show. But here's the wild card. Iran says a draft deal is coming, If that draft lands on the table this week in Geneva, everything could shift or collapse. Retention trigger. And the biggest question hasn't been answered yet. Why hasn't Iran capitulated? Because from Tehran's perspective, backing down under military pressure could look like weakness. But from Washington's perspective, allowing nuclear ambiguity could look dangerous. So both sides are playing high-stakes poker. Warships on one side, draft agreements on the other, and millions of civilians caught in between. We are watching a moment that could go two very different ways: a diplomatic breakthrough or a military escalation. 10 days, that's the window. And history shows, when pressure peaks, something breaks. The only question is, what? If you want clear, no-hype breakdowns of global power moves like this, subscribe now. And tell me in the comments, do you think this ends in a deal or a strike? Sex.